Hi there. I am wanting to talk to all of the busy women out there today. And I know that we're out there because I'm one too. So there's all kinds of different kinds of busy women. There are stay-at-home mom busy women. There are busy women who work outside of the home. There are working in the home women. There are women who are not moms. There are women who are caring for aging parents. There are busy career women. There's all kinds of different kinds of busy women. And so that's who I wanted to talk to today. So if you are one of those, you are in the right place. So I want to start off by asking you 3 questions, okay? Number 1 is, what if you could wake up every morning and not feel exhausted before you even got out of bed? Okay, that's question number 1. Question number 2, what if you could go through your day, and instead of you feeling like you were constantly chasing down your day, you were actually controlling your day to some extent. You were kind of the master of your own day. So that's number 2. Number 3, what if you could get to the end of the day and you didn't look back on your day and feel like you didn't get anything done, or the things that you did intend to get done, you didn't get done, but you got a bunch of nothing else done, and that the things you did get done, you were a failure at doing, and you just want a whole big do-over. What if you could do those 3 things? Wouldn't that change the way that you looked at your overall life? Wouldn't that change your daily life? And I'm guessing that it would. So, I'm Jennifer Roskamp. For those of you who don't know, I am the owner of theintentionalmom.com, and I am also a busy woman. I am a mom of 8, and I understand being busy, especially because I had my first 3 kids in 3.5 years. So that was by far the busiest time of my life. And so I've learned to kind of put systems and solutions in place so that I could feel as though I was the master of my own life. Because if I didn't figure out a way to do that, I'm completely outnumbered. I have 8 kids. And did I mention that I also homeschool them? So I have them home all day long. For the most part, it's me versus 8. So if I didn't come up with some ways to do this in my own life, I was just completely overwhelmed. And I can honestly say that those first 3.5 years, when I had 3 kids in 3.5 years, today, because of the things that I've kind of figured out, I actually have more time to myself. We have more time as a family. It cost me less to feed my family of 10 than it did to feed my family of 4. And that's because I had to figure out how to make life work. I had to figure out how to not feel out of control to live my own life. And so as I've been blogging and teaching and doing a lot of live broadcasting and stuff over the last couple of years, I have learned, and as I've really gotten to know my readers, I have learned that I am not the only one who has felt this way before, and that these feelings of exhaustion before your day starts and feeling out of control during the day and all of this stuff, this is common among women. And so then I realized that really what busy women really need is some of the things that I've already figured out how to do, because I had to, because my numbers kept growing of kids and my busyness kept growing. And there still was only one of me. And so as I've been teaching and sharing with women some of these solutions and things that I've come up with, it's really begun to make a difference in their lives. And so I'm really excited to share with you today a little bit about some of what I've already been sharing with women. So let me pivot back to those 3 questions that I asked you in the beginning. So we were talking about being overwhelmed, or we were talking about being exhausted before your day starts. We were talking about being feeling out of control with your whole day, and then feeling like regretful at the end of your day. Okay, so remember, those were the first 3 questions. Well, what do all those things have in common? All those things really have in common what is at the root of what a lot of busy women today are feeling, and that's overwhelm. And so that's what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about today. So, okay, I've got one of these systems and solutions that I've come up with that I think this might be the most powerful one that I know, the one that makes the most the biggest difference in my life, but it's really the easiest one to implement. And so that's why I'm excited to share this with you today. Okay, so the next time that you start to feel like your head is swimming and that the weight of the world is kind of getting on your shoulders and you're getting things bombarding you, from left and right. Oh my gosh, I forgot that I needed to do this. And now this person, just dumped this project in my lap. And oh my gosh, now I've got a puking kid, or, all those things that come at us from all different sides in life. The next time you start to feel overwhelmed, this is what I want you to do. Okay. So I have this exercise I'm going to tell you how to do. Okay. So the first thing you need to do is get a piece of paper and something to write with. Now, I want you to hang on to this paper. So it needs to be like I would write it in my planner. That's where I would write what I'm telling you right now. But it doesn't matter where you write it. You just need to write it someplace where you'll be able to reference it later. Okay? So you need to get something to write with, and you need to get something to write on. Okay? That's the first part. The second part is you need to find a way to get someplace quiet. When you're in the midst of all of this overwhelm, you need to find someplace quiet that you can go to for 5 or 10 minutes to work through this exercise, okay? Now, if you happen to be a mom, remember how I said I had 3 kids in 3.5 years? I know how hard it can be to find even just a few minutes for yourself, but you're going to do whatever it is you have to do to get to a quiet place. If you need to put a video on for your kids or whatever, just for that 5 or 10 minutes so that you can work through this. This is what you need to do, okay? So now you've got your supplies, you've got whatever to write on, whatever to write with, and you've got your place, okay? So now, what I want you to do is when you're starting to feel overwhelmed with all of this stuff that you have to do, I want you to take that piece of paper and I want you to start unloading everything that you have to do. All of these tasks that are making you crazy, write them all down. And when you're writing them down though, here's the thing, leave a little space after, because you're going to write something after. So leave a little space. So you're just going to list off, you're going to list off all these things that are making you feel overwhelmed. I've got to make meals. I've got to do the carpool. I've got to finish this project, this work thing by 6. I've got to RSVP for the party, all of this, whatever. Oh, and my sink is clogged and I need to call the plumber. Whatever these things could be, you're going to list them all out. You're just going to unload them onto this piece of paper. And that in and of itself is really therapeutic. It's the act of just getting them off your shoulders, I think, and putting them on paper. That in and of itself is therapeutic, but it goes on from there. So write them all down, just kind of like unload. It's kind of like a brain dump, if you've ever heard of that. That's what you're doing. You're brain dumping all of this stuff that you feel that you need to get done. Okay, so you've gotten that all down on paper. So after you have that, I want you to look at your list there and ask yourself this question about every single one of those things. Okay, the question you're going to ask is, what's the worst that could happen if this didn't get done today? So you're going to look at each one of those tasks and you're going to say, what's the worst that could happen if this didn't get done today? So let's just say, for instance, that you wrote down making meals, right? If you're a mom, your family needs you to make meals, right? So you've got that written down. So let's just use that as an example going forward, okay? So you've got your meals written down. And now you're asking, what's the worst that would happen if that didn't get done today? So in response to that question, you're going to write that. In that space that you left, you're going to write that. Now, let me caution you, resist the urge, the temptation to feel that sense of urgency with everything that you wrote down. That's where this overwhelm comes in. In our minds, I think, especially when we're busy women and we're used to multitasking and we have a lot of different roles that we're filling, I think pretty easily take on those feelings of overwhelm and we accept them because we allow ourselves to feel like everything has to get done now. And so what I'm urging you to do at this point is to resist that urge and to honestly answer that question, what's the worst that would happen if this wasn't done today? Okay, so you're going to do that with every one of those things that you wrote down. Now, what you'll be left with at the end of that is kind of a prioritized list. So you've talked about what the worst that could happen is with each one of those things. So now you have, without realizing that you've made a prioritized list of everything, you've made a prioritized list. And so now you're going to move forward with that prioritized list, just starting to knock those things off your list. So when you have that list, you're going to say, okay, I've got time to work on something now. I'm going to do this thing that, according to my list, is the most urgent, because if this didn't get done today, my family would starve, for instance, in my example. So you're just going to start working through your list. But here's another thing. Here's another quick tip. Before you start working on that list, let's go back to that meal example, for instance. before you start working through that list, you're going to ask yourself, are there any shortcuts that can help me out here with this task? I know I have to get this task done. Are there any shortcuts? So back to my meal illustration, right? Are there any shortcuts here? Well, you had planned on making, baked chicken and baked potatoes and, corn and carrots and a really nice meal. Well, okay, now I just had all these other things thrown at me. I know that my family still needs to eat, so I'm just going to pull a frozen pizza out of the oven, or I'm just going to pull a freezer meal out, or I'm just going to open up a can of soup, or whatever it is. You're still feeding your family. You're still accomplishing that task. But at the same time, you're accomplishing it in a manageable way to try to unload some of that overwhelm, okay? So a lot of times, let me give you another example. So let's say on your list, you put that you wanted to dust your house, right? In a perfect world, I love it. I love to dust my house once a week. I like to not see dust, okay? But I mentioned I'm a busy mom. I've got 8 kids. My reality now is such that for the most part, there's not time to dust my house every week. But that would still be something that I would list, right? On my list. It's because it still is in my mind. I still have to do that. So then when I was asking about the shortcut question, and this is a shortcut that I often take, I don't like to look at the dust. Well, you really can only see the dust on my black furniture. So a shortcut I could take there would be to just dust the black furniture. In the back of my mind, sure, I know that the dusting isn't done. But in the front of what I see every day, I'm not seeing the dust because I've taken care of the areas where you can see the dust. Do you see how that's a shortcut? And that allows me to feel less overwhelmed in the everyday things. Okay, so do you see how this works now? So after working through this exercise, you're going to have a prioritized list and you're going to have thought through any shortcuts that you can take. And you're going to logically work through your list as you've prioritized it, and whatever doesn't get done today can carry on to the next day. So that's why I say you're going to kind of hang on to that list. So I can hear what you're saying to some extent, because I would say the same thing. I would say, how am I supposed to do one other thing? You're telling me to do something. I'm already overwhelmed in my life. I already am crazy busy. Now you're asking me to do one more thing. But I would say to that, I'm not really asking you to do one more thing. I'm not really expecting you to do one more thing. I'm giving you the thing that is going to help you shift your perspective. Because remember how I said we kind of invite that overwhelm in? We do a lot of times. Of course, there are urgent things that need to be taken care of every day, but those feelings of overwhelm, those feelings of exhaustion, a lot of times we let those in and we take those in on ourselves. And so what this exercise is going to allow you to do is to shift your perspective, which is going to allow you to have that transformation from overwhelm to manageable, which is where I live most of the times these days. Most of the times, I am not stressed out like I was before I really started to implement some of these systems and solutions that I share, because I am more able to master rather than have them master me. So I know what it's like to feel like you have one more thing to do, but this is kind of the thing that is going to help you shift that perspective, which is hugely powerful, okay? So then you might say, well, how am I supposed to find the time to do that? And that's a really good question too. How am I supposed to find the time to do this a couple of times a day, maybe, when I might feel overwhelmed? How am I supposed to find that time? And that is a really good question. And actually, we are going to revisit that question more deeply in the next video. I'm going to do another video in the next couple of days, and we will unpack that idea further. But here's what I want you to do between now and the time that I get that video out to you, okay? I want you to, number one, answer this question. 3 things. You got to do 3 things. Actually, number 1 would be put this exercise to good use. When you start to feel overwhelmed, try it. It really is transformational. As long as you are willing to just unpack and really look at it logically and really say, what's the worst that can happen? So often we feel like it's going to be a nightmare if this doesn't get done. But when we really look at it logically and say, what's the worst that could happen? Then we're kind of left saying, oh, well, I guess that's not that big of a deal. It's just, we get our emotion, as women, we get our emotion all wrapped up into stuff. And sometimes that doesn't help us. And I think when we start to get bombarded from all different directions, that's one of the times that our emotion doesn't help. So, okay, so number 1 thing is you're gonna apply this exercise that I talked about whenever you start to feel overwhelmed. Number 2, in preparation for the next video, I want you to answer this question honestly. How much time, here's the question, how much time do I spend every day rebooting myself, refueling myself, refilling myself on any given day? How much time do I spend really focusing on just those few minutes where I can just catch my breath throughout my day? How much time do I spend doing that? That's the question that you need to answer. So that's number 2 thing that I need you to do. Number 3 thing that I need you to do is I want to hear if you have any questions or comments about this video and what I taught you today. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the YouTube, the question or comment area in this YouTube video. But there's also a lot of people who are getting this YouTube video via email. You can also feel free to reply to me in that email and let me know if you have any questions or comments about what you learned today. And next time, like I said, next time we'll really start to unpack that whole idea of how much time do I really have to pour into myself? And we'll talk about how to really be able to be more proactive in that too. So until then, I hope this really helps you guys really start to feel less overwhelmed, because as much as we'd like to control the things that happen to us and we'd like to minimize the numbers of times that we're interrupted or bombarded by something, the fact of the matter is we can't. We can't control those things that come hurling at us. The only thing we can do is control how we respond to them, and that's what we're trying to do. We're no longer going to invite those feelings of overwhelm. We are going to conquer those feelings of overwhelm, and this is a great way to do that. So until next time, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.